Live. Okay. So I thought I'd go live to talk about Fleets, Twitter's new stories application, which is getting a lot of heat today. Not only because it's gone live and there's a lot of people think that's just a big copycat, which it is in many cases. Let's just call a spade, but it is also I don't know. I have thoughts. So here are my thoughts. Fleets is, yes, Twitter's answer to Instagram stories, Facebook stories, and they needed to do something as well. And I hear it's probably not the only platform or only feature that they're going to replicate, but it was a necessary evil. And here's the reasons why I think why. I spent in a previous life working in housewares, in the consumer goods, and we had there's a product out there. It was a cake decorating industry, and it was a product that get like a picture of Donald Duck and you put it on a cake. It was like a little wafer thing, and it melted into the icing, and it made a very easy way to create pictures on cakes, which is great. It's a great solution. We did not have an answer to that. We couldn't do exactly what the competitor did because they had a patent. We couldn't do anything that was superior because we just couldn't figure out the technology or couldn't do something that was going to deliver a better solution. So we came up with something that was not going to be as great, but we needed to do it anyways. And the reason why is because we needed to protect market share, and more specifically, it was a blocking and tackling tool. And I think that's exactly what Twitter is doing with Fleets. It is a blocking and tackling tool, and it's reason because they don't want their users going to other platforms. Now, granted, stories came out on Instagram first, or actually Snapchat first, then it moved to Instagram because Facebook owns them. They moved them over to Facebook too. Stories are everywhere, but it is an engaging solution that is keeping users on platforms instead of continuing to switch and hop around. Now with Instagram and Facebook, they can merge things together, and you can put a story on Instagram and it can go to Facebook and vice versa. But the interesting thing is that I think with Twitter is they just wanted to continue to have something that's going to keep their users on their platform. This isn't about gaining new users. This is about keeping users on their platform. And especially in a day and age when you now have, with coronavirus and this pandemic, you have social media usage going up. So recent eMarketer report, how did the pandemic affect US mobile messaging usage since the pandemic happened? And time spent on mobile messaging among US adults grew from 4 minutes in 2020 to 24 minutes per day. That's a huge number. And I'm sure this number is even going up and up. And, as the months of the pandemic continue to move on. Twitter is a mobile application. It's used on phones. Consumers are in front of phones all the time. Their users are on their phones. They want to do something that's going to keep their audience on their phone instead of flipping to other applications. And so, yes, of course, Twitter's going to do this. Is it going to be better than Instagram? It's going to be better than Snap? Is it going to be better than anything else? No, it's not. But it's about keeping users on their platform. Same thing with LinkedIn, which I actually found fascinating that LinkedIn moved into the stories movement, because I don't know where LinkedIn's usage is at and how much is mobile versus desktop users. I'm more of a desktop user. I do use it, on mobile, but stories is a very mobile application solution. That is where users are going to use it. Right? They take a video, they take a picture, they create some text. They're going to do it on their mobile device. They clearly, LinkedIn feels that they have a user base that can maybe apply stories to a business setting, because that's usually what their platform is doing. But I don't see it as being successful in that setting. Well, time will tell. I think Twitter's going to have at least a legitimate shot, because it is, by its inherent nature, Twitter is a very mobile first solution. People are tweeting in real time. It's usually not done as much on a desktop. I'm sure there's a healthy amount that do. I do as well. But still, it's very mobile, which is why it's really popular in Instagram, because Instagram's a mobile solution. That is where it's intended to be, in the mobile setting. So to me, Fleets is about blocking and tackling. It's about user retention, not about necessarily user growth. They're not going to get new people to come over there because all of a sudden Twitter released Fleets, which is their story solution, than anything else. But I also think it's about engagement. And will Fleets grow in engagement? It doesn't have some of the same features that Instagram has, like the stickers and other stuff. I see a lot of people importing, today at least, importing their TikToks and their maybe their other stories they're going to put in different platforms. It is a distribution point, but it is going to be I think, an engagement tool for them. I think they're putting it at least in the right place. They're copying it as much as they possibly can. I'm sure new features will roll out. This is not so much about copying or is the sincerest form of flattery. This is about business, and by business, this is about keeping users on their platform. This is about creating something that's going to at least get them to feature parity as their competition. It'll be interesting to see where they go from there. I've heard rumors that Twitter's talked about maybe a subscription model, which will be very interesting to see if people will actually pay to use Twitter, or at least in a different type of use case. But it is about feature parity. It's about keeping their visitors there. It's about keeping people engaged. And I'm not surprised that Twitter went down this road. I'm actually surprised it took them this long. I've seen a lot of people complain about, let's get spell check and edit buttons before we roll out new features. But Twitter has to make some choices about its effort in R&D. And I think part of it, this is really about getting people that feature parity, getting people more engaged on their platform. Besides, especially now that the political season is kind of winding down a little bit with the election being over, they need something else that's going to kind of get the community moving and making it maybe more of a community again. Marketers, I think, are going to adapt to this. I think they will, as much as they adapt to anything on Twitter. I think repurposing stories will be interesting, but it's an interesting move. Now, I'm not a fan of the name Fleets, because it feels like it's a fleeting thing. Hopefully, it makes a long run. But I would say, for as much negativity as what Fleets has been garnering today, and then probably even a little bit from me, kind of a little bit of an eye roll, as I sat back and looked at it all and thought about it and took it in a little bit more. And it's day one, so of course everyone's gonna be a little bit critical. I'm not sure everyone's gonna be doing a ton of jumping up and down. I do think it is something that Twitter had to do. I'm sure it won't be the last thing that they roll out. Hopefully, they do something that's a little more innovative, and they could be maybe first to market versus third, fourth, or fifth. But they do need to find a way to continue to keep their users engaged. And at some point, if they're going to see the popularity of a function and a feature sitting in another solution, they're going to do that copying thing just as much as Instagram stories is better than Snap stories. Is it really? It's Instagram didn't want their users going over to Snapchat any more than Snapchat wanted to take Instagram users over to their platform. So it is a business. It isn't about just, taking the best of what people have and copying it. It's about probably taking something that makes the most logical sense. I did see someone said, like, who was the person in the meeting that said about new features, let's roll out stories, and raise their hand? What was that conversation like? I don't know what that conversation was like, but certainly it was enough to say, yep, we need to do this because there's clearly data that's saying stories is where users want to spend their time and they'll get more engagement. And if we get engagement, which means we're going to keep them on our platform, and they keep them on our platform, that means we can keep monetization moving, and that helps pay the bills. That, I think, is the business logic behind Fleets coming to Twitter, not because they just wanted to rip something off. There has to be something behind the scenes. This is a blocking and tackling thing. That's my point of view. We'll talk to you on the next one from A Hot Take.